Welcome to Phonogenics 101, a Riotboy production hosted by Jeremy Gloff. The podcast where people who love music discuss albums track by track. Please hit subscribe, and if you'd like to support this podcast, patreon.com/Jeremy Gloff or Venmo @Jeremy Gloff. And now, on to the music. Hello, everybody. Welcome to Phonogenics 101. This was an episode we were supposed to do last month, but we are the Blondie family here, and there was a really sad passing of Clem Burke, the drummer of Blondie. So we took a little time off to kind of collect ourselves because we didn't want to become a mess on Zoom. Let's do all the housekeeping stuff. Thanks to all the people that subscribe to the channel. Trying to hit those 1,000 subscribers. So if you're watching this and you like the podcast, just please hit that subscribe button. It only takes a second. Thanks to my Patreon subscribers, some of which are in here, for paying the bills. It's nice to do a podcast that isn't in the red, it's in the green. So that's awesome. Mm-hmm. But we only have two more Deborah Harry solo albums left, so it's been a pleasure meeting you guys, and I'm sure we'll stay in touch and we'll do special episodes here and there. But tonight, we're going to talk about the Depravation album. But first, let's have a little moment about Clem. Barry, do you want to start? I know you have some stories to tell, and then we'll go around the circle. Anyone can share anything they'd like to share.
Yeah, I'd love to start. So Clem was a great friend. It was very sad hearing of his loss. One thing of note for some people that might not be familiar, he died on April 6th, which was one day before the 50th anniversary of his very first show together with Blondie at CBGB's. Wow. And I didn't meet Clem in the original incarnation of Blondie. I didn't meet any of them until 1990 when I met Debbie and Chris. And at the reunion at the reunion shows is where I first met Clem. And we quickly hit it off. He's very businesslike. And at first I did things for him as best I could. And, I guess I kind of grew on him. And he eventually was so comfortable with me and my friends that we were always invited backstage. He always had his own room backstage. There was Debbie's room, Clem's room, and then the rest of the band. And Clem always had wine on hand, which was really great. And he was always so generous. I remember at one show, there was a green room kind of thing backstage after the show. And some of us were hanging out there, myself included. And Clem actually came to see us. And he had a red wine, which is what he always drank. And he asked me if I wanted a wine, and I said yes. And since there was the main room where Debbie and Chris was so full that he gave me his wine, and I drank his. And one of the things I wanted to show here while we were on the subject was that I had seen Blondie perform in Silver Spring, Maryland in 2011, and it was on my birthday on September 20th. And Clem actually gave me his wine bottle, which I'll show you. So it's right here. He signed it 9/20/11, and he wrote to Barry 2011. So I kept it ever since then. And I have a couple other things maybe I'll talk about later, but I'll yield the floor to you guys to answer.
Barry, I want to mention, do you want me to play the clip from that show in Silver Spring when Debbie sang Happy Birthday to you?
Oh, yeah, if you want to, sure.
I hope it works here.
Go mute.
Debbie sang Happy Birthday to Barry from the stage. I wasn't there, but I have the recording. Can you hear it?
Zoom kind of sometimes blocks out music, so we might not be able to hear it.
We'll hear it.
Is it playing? No, we can't hear it.
Yeah, unfortunately, I can't hear it either.
Oh, okay. You know what? I'll have to well, I can send it to you guys, I guess, externally. I wonder if I could put
Yeah,
a
we could
file in
link
the
to it.
chat. Yeah, yeah, okay. But
Yeah, that was
anyway,
really nice. That was a big surprise. I had no idea that they were going to do that. It was a sold out show. I was recording it at the soundboard, so I have it on a perfect quality recording, and the whole band joined in. It was really quite an honor that they would do that. And I got a beautiful picture with Debbie after the show.
Well, I definitely cannot say that Debbie Harry sang happy birthday to me. So
There's still time.
there's still
I
time.
just I just uploaded it as a file in the chat so you can listen to it after we're done here.
Perfect. Thank you so much.
Yeah.
Okay, do we have any other Clem stories that or thoughts that anybody would like to share?
Yeah, I can share one. I went to a casino in Mississippi to see Blondie. And while I was there, I thought, well, let me check out the spa. Went in the sauna, and Clem Burke walked in. So I was in the sauna with Clem Burke.
Right on.
And I didn't say anything because there was one other guy in there. And so I didn't want to, say anything while somebody else was there. But then the other guy left, and then it was that awkward. Do I say, I know who you are. I know you, I'm so familiar with you. And so I just said something nonchalant. And he was really nice and cool about it. But it was kind of awkward, two guys at a sauna. You're not supposed to talk. So that was my close encounter with Clem.
Jeremy, was that in
Really great.
Biloxi, early 2000?
Was it what?
Was that in Biloxi in the early 2000s, like 2003, 2004?
It was some place in Mississippi I'd never even heard of. It was just a casino and resort kind of situation. And the show, I was so mad. Of course, I had my tickets were not great at all. And I'm up way back, and I can see the front row, and there were tons of seats in the front row available. Because I'm sure they give them to the high rollers or whatever at the casinos. They get those front row seats. And I'm like, you know what? I am not leaving an empty seat in front of this Blondie concert. So I just marched myself up, sat in the front row for the whole entire show. Nobody showed up, and it was great.
Good thinking.
All right.
I have something,
Okay.
if I may.
Sure, please.
Well, it's in the Lester Bangs book on Blondie. It has a little short chapter on Clem, and we all got this book. I got it when it first came out and read it, and one of the things he said that I swear I have lived by, and it in ways it did change my life. This one little quote. He said, the reason I do what I do is because I've always been a super fan, and the ultimate fan transcends fandom and does it himself. So I don't know why that resonated so much with me when I was probably 15 when I read it. But every time I loved something after that, instead of just being a fan of it, I always tried to sublimate that energy into being creative too. So I took everything I loved about Blondie and learned how to write music by pretending that I was writing the next Blondie album. And the songs came out pretty good. And I ended up being in a band for 6 years. I did pretty well. But I can't say I ever would have done that had I not thought about that thing that he said, which is if you love something and it's taking a lot of your energy, use part of that energy to be productive. And I have to imagine a lot of other people were inspired by that quote to make their own bands, or to make a movie about something they're obsessed with, or write a book about something they're obsessed with. And I just think I'm grateful to him for that, because it improved the quality of my life. So thank you, Clem.
Oh, thank you. Yeah, definitely my creativity. All of it goes back to getting that Best of Blondie album as a Christmas present in '82 or whatever. So I think a lot of our lives and the creativity, all the family tree goes right back to Blondie. So I can really relate, Scott. Thanks for sharing.
Yeah.
All right, who
Do
else
you
wants
guys
to?
remember when they were selling the drum heads that have the set list on? They were selling them at shows. Here's one. This is from Atlantic City in September of 2011, September of 2010, and Clem signed this to me in 2012. It's down at the bottom. Yep, and that was really nice. But I like that they were selling these. That's a very unique and personal thing. And Clem would often sign drumsticks and give them to fans or friends at shows. And I did have one other thing that was very interesting to show. You all probably know from the gig list that on March 10th of 1975, Debbie and Chris ran an advertisement in the Village Voice looking for the drummer, and Clem was the last person to audition. Anyway, because of my research on the gig list, and then I had a lot of help from my friend Michelle Shin, who's a physicist with the Department of Energy. I met her after a show when I was giving out Blondie fan club stuff, and her and I together were doing research to try to nail down this ad because so many people had talked about it and written about it. Journalists had written about it, and no one actually ever found it. But I nailed down the time frame, and Michelle went to the New York Public Library, looked in microfilm, and she found it. And she framed a copy for Kate and for Clem. And you can see, I'll try to show it here. Can you see that?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
That's the ad that landed Clem his job in Blondie. And Clem had that backstage in a little arrangement that he had. He always had a little table with pictures and his idols, like the Who and so forth, were in his tribute that he carried around at every show, and he always had that ad there. I know I invited Michelle to join us, and she unfortunately is traveling. She's in the air right now, so wasn't able to join us. But I wanted to mention that because that was quite a historical find in Blondie history, and you can see an image of it, the full page and the ad itself in the Blondie gig list.
Well, Barry, thanks for being part of preserving that history, and it's so important because a lot of times bands themselves. I know some of you are on my Eurythmics podcast, but there's some songs that they did that don't even exist anymore that aren't on some of the remasters. So, stuff that was actually released. So I know, Barry, you were a big part of preserving Blondie's history, and
yeah,
so
Chris and
important.
Debbie designated me their official archivist, so I'm very happy about that. And the gig list is a project I've been working on since 1983, so I'm very, very proud of that. And so many people have contributed, and I appreciate all the contributions from perhaps over 100 people that have contributed to the gig list.
Wow. All right. Does anybody else would like to talk a little bit about Clem Burke before we jump into the album?
Sure, I have a Clem story.
Okay.
Can you guys hear me okay?
Yeah.
Okay, so it was 2014. And I mean, I've seen, Clem with other bands just besides Blondie, but it was 2014 at Harrah's in the San Diego County. And we went up there the night before to stay at Harrah's. And so we were walking around in the casino, and we actually ran into Clem and his wife. This was the tour for, help me out, the one with the greatest hits with the re-recorded.
Oh,
Ghost of
Ghost of
Download?
Download.
Yeah, Ghost of Download. It was the Ghost of Download concert. Let's see. It was really a great time because we ran the night before. We ran into Clem and his wife. We started to talk to them, and I was telling Clem how, oh, you're the best drummer ever of the best band ever. I was kind of gushing and all that. But then I don't know why this like came out of my mouth, but I was like, oh, I really miss you in this album. And he he kind of was like, because Ghosts of Download, it's kind of electronic. And I felt so bad because he kind of got offended and he was like, oh, yeah, I do too. And he left. But his wife stayed around and she was really cool. We had front row center tickets. And that was because my stepdad he's Indian. And so, because it was on an Indian reservation, when they went to go get the tickets, we got front row center, 4 front row seat centers. The next morning, we went to the pool, and Lee Fox was there. Debbie came out. It was, we're like there's a bunch of YouTube videos. We're in quite a few of them. She even says, hey, I saw these guys at the pool right here because we're seriously like front row center. Anyways, I kind of got sidetracked there. He took off and his wife stayed with us and she was really nice. She's a really sweet lady. I don't remember her name, but she was really, really nice. And
Her
we
name is Ellen.
Ellen, yes, Ellen. She was very nice. She hung out. She talked to us for a little bit. We told her how we were so excited because we had front row center tickets. And then when we were there, she walked by with her clan of people. She couldn't believe it. She's like, "Oh, you really do have front row center tickets." So it was exciting for me. Anyway, that's my story.
All right. Well, thank you for sharing. Anybody else want to share something?
Yeah, I have one or two more comments.
Okay.
One of them is that Clem always had these side projects. So he was with the Split Squad, and one of the band members in the Split Squad is a native of Mechanicsburg, Pennsylvania, my hometown. And Clem and his band played in Mechanicsburg at this little tiny place on Main Street called Metropolis. So he's the only Blondie band member that ever played in my hometown, but it's a pretty small town. So that was kind of remarkable. And they played in Harrisburg a few times at HMAC, and that Michael Giblin is the native of Mechanicsburg, and he owns HMAC. And we had dinner with Clem a few times at his wife's restaurant called Note in Harrisburg, which is where HMAC is. And the Bluebonnets played there. And I met Kathy Valentine there, and we got to hang out. She was very friendly, very nice. And the last thing I wanted to add about Clem is that when he got his honorary doctorate in England in 2006, I think it was, I might have the year wrong, but when he got his honorary doctorate, I realized that I couldn't go, and obviously knew
that was 2011, I think.
Oh, that was 2011. Okay, yeah, I'm confusing it with something else, but I realized that since I'm sort of a go-between, I guess to some extent, with between the fans who I know so many, and I'm so grateful for them being so loyal to Blondie, and the band, that they couldn't go either, many of them. And what I decided to do was to get everyone that I could to write a one-page letter to Clem, and I compiled and edited these letters into a book. There were 123 letters, I believe, that were basically printed out, bound into a book, which I searched and searched for it to show it here today, but I couldn't find it. And that book was printed out at the university where Clem got the doctorate degree from, and it was presented to him on behalf of all the fans who couldn't make it, and he just absolutely loved it. And it was really great because Matt Katzbowen and Tommy Kessler wrote letters, and many of his friends, Clem's friends, and lots and lots of his fans wrote letters, and we printed this book, and it went from a concept to a fully bound printed book in color presented to him at this thing in a week. It was the hardest I've ever worked on anything, I think. And the cover was designed by a close friend of mine and also a friend of Clem's, Brian LaFountain, and he did the cover. And Jeremy, if you could share it, there it is. It was called Letters to a Legend. And that was this fantastic project that we all worked on, and so many people contributed, and it was just great. There was 5 copies made, and Clem got one.
Wow, I love all these stories. They're all so special. Anybody else?
Yeah, I would love to say something. I didn't know Clem. I didn't even meet Clem. I had one little brush in with him, and I think I told the story on the podcast when I went to see Debbie, and it was like in '97 at a Jazz Passengers gig, and then I was lucky enough to be introduced to her, and as I was walking down the stairs, I looked behind me, and it was Clem Burke, and it was Jimmy Destry, and it was all the Blondie guys, and this was like back in like '97 or something, and it was amazing that I just like had that little brush in with him, but I never met him. I do know people who did know him, and they all just spoke about what a gentleman he was and how gracious he was. And all the women told me of what a flirt he was, in an innocent way, but just how wonderful he was. But I have to say that for me, especially as this kind of hit me hard in a way, just because it just represented such a strong part of my life. I almost felt like part of my childhood or part of my adolescence was kind of ripped from me. And in the way that, Debbie had always been this very ethereal or otherworldly voice, Clem was always kind of the counterbalance to that. And he was just, and I think Debbie described it really well, where she described him as the heartbeat of the band. And in a way, I kind of feel like, when I heard the news of it, like that the heartbeat was kind of pulled from us. And I've just always been such a huge fan of his. I loved his work with Blondie, and I also think some of his best work was done with Eurythmics. And I just had to say, I loved him. I adored him. I adored him as a musician and as somebody. I didn't need to meet him, and I could still, admire him. And yeah, and that's just what I wanted to share.
And truthfully, in a way, we meet him through every song that he's played on that becomes like the soundtrack of our lives. I mean, I feel like Clem Burke's drums, his drum tracks, have maybe I've spent more time and more emotion with his drum beats than my own family sometimes. So
I think Blondie wouldn't be the same without him, and it was really great that they found him. And Mark, by the way, that shirt that you're wearing, that's one of my favorite pictures of him. That I think it was taken by Robert Matthew. I hope I'm pronouncing it correctly. That was the photograph that I included in the book on the very last page. It followed all of the comments that the fans had made on blondie.net and in the fan forums and groups that I could find. There was about 10 pages of just short comments from many, many, many people who didn't write letters in the book, but whose comments on social networking I compiled, and I put those at the end of the book. And that photo was the conclusion of the document. It's just a wonderful picture.
Yeah, I thought he was so cool because I was at a show and, I had rail, so I was right up front. And like at the end of the show, he came down and he specifically handed me his drumsticks, like very intentionally. And, there were tons of other people there. So, I don't know, I don't know how I was fortunate enough to be selected, but it was really a cool kind of moment to be gifted those.
Yeah. It is something to mourn because it's definitely the end of an era in a way. No one can play drums like Clem Burke did. When you heard a track, you knew his drumming, and that says a lot about a testament to his talent. Okay.
I wonder if he maybe remembered you because weren't we backstage at Virginia Beach and he probably met you there? I think he was there.
I did meet him there. Maybe it was after the sauna because maybe it was after the sauna incident.
What happened in that sauna? No.
What happens in Mississippi
stays in Mississippi. That's right. Okay. Any other thoughts on Clem Burke before we jump into deprivation? Well, let's do for all our listeners out there, let's just do like a 10-second, like just moment of silence, so anyone that's listening and all of us can just take a minute to reflect on Clem Burke. All right. Well, hopefully he's sitting up in a sauna in heaven with his drumsticks, about to rock it out.
Peace and love, my friend.
Yeah, peace and love, man. Shit. It was the early 90s. Well, moving into the mid 90s, I feel like that was the roughest time for many of our favorites. The 70s and 80s were huge for a lot of people. The early 90s were very rough on some of those same people. And I feel like I was taking a bath before I did this podcast. I'm like, man, Behind the Music kind of saved a lot of careers, I feel like. Because that's when, like, the nostalgia came in. Then everybody started kind of being cool again. But, I'm like, one of my top 5 is Stevie Nicks. And I think of, like, where Stevie Nicks was with Street Angel in 1994. Like, I was the only one that loved that album. I remember I was working at Arby's at the time. And, you know, all the Debbie albums, I bought all those. Who else came out with albums in that window? Cyndi Lauper had some albums that I loved that just did not do well at all. And in the midst of all this, I had a subscription to Rolling Stone. And the first I heard about the new Deborah Harry album was this terrible, terrible review that was in Rolling Stone. I think they given it 1.5 stars, but it was for Debravation, the album we're about to discuss. This is before YouTube existed, but when you look back at interviews of Debbie, it just seems like this wasn't even a time that she enjoyed. So much so that a director's cut of the album was sold at live shows, which is only available from Barry, so we'll go into that, I guess, in a little bit. But here, let me just pull out the album here. Here it is. Debbie's 4th solo album, Debravation, 1993, correct? So, at that time, like, gangster rap was coming out. We were in the full midst of grunge. Madonna had her backlash from erotica, getting ready to go into bedtime stories. And in the middle of all that, quietly on Chrysalis Records, Debbie released her final album with them after a long, long partnership that started with the first Blondie album. So, for the diehards here, what are your memories of this era? Because I remember everyone was so excited about Deaf, Dumb, and Blonde, which I forgot to mention on the last podcast is not available on streaming, is it? I had to get out the CD for that to listen to it. Depravation, however, is on streaming.
Isn't Deaf, Dumb, and Blonde about to come back out on vinyl?
Oh, maybe. Hopefully they put it on streaming.
I saw a thing for it. It is, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
And is it an expanded edition or just the standard?
I don't know.
Okay.
I think it's a double
From what
album.
I saw-
I think it's all 14
Yeah.
on a double album.
Okay.
Two
Right.
tracks.
Deprivation, though, there was really not a lot of hoopla. I mean, Deaf, Dumb, and Blonde had so much press and all these TV appearances, and you know, it was like they put money into promoting it. Sire Records, I guess it was. And then Deprivation, what label was that?
Chrysalis.
Was it back on Chrysalis?
Yeah.
It
It
didn't
was
seem like.
Sire in the States.
Yeah.
Not
Okay.
Sire, it was on Warner. Yeah.
Okay. It just didn't seem like they put any push into promoting it. I don't remember seeing ads. I don't remember hearing about it's coming out. Suddenly it was just there.
Right. Had I not had a subscription to Rolling Stone, I don't even know if I would have known about the album.
You know what, Jeremy? I wanted to say something. Do you read the comments on your podcast? Because there was a comment from Blondie and Beyond, and I thought it was interesting because he said it was definitely a conflict of interest with the record being put out on Sire in the USA. Rumor has it that Madonna made sure it wasn't a priority release, and that made me think of the lyric, "Another blonde, not from the city, gave me an allergy."
Oh.
I'm like, Madonna was the goldenrod. Okay.
There were rumors
I thought
also that
would have got a better reception, whatever, you guys.
there were rumors that Prince shelved the Black album also because Madonna was doing "You Can Dance" at the time and she didn't want to count. Now, that's all gossip. I don't know if any of that's true. And you guys know I love my Madonna, but
I know.
any
I
other?
do too. I love her too.
Yeah. Any other thoughts on the era going into deprivation? Was there any?
Yeah, I loved
anticipation?
that time period because I had become very friendly with Chris and Debbie by that point. We met in 1990, and by 1993, Chris was inviting me to his home and to rehearsals for the tour, and he invited me to go to England in November and December of 93. They were rehearsing at his house in New York in 93. And then I went to the whole tour, 15 shows in 21 days. And, that they did a lot of the songs from the album during the live shows. And then in 94, they toured in the Northeast US in the spring. I went to all of those shows because they were all in the Northeast. I could drive there. Living in Pennsylvania, it was pretty much central to that whole area. So that was a fun time for me. And I had done the last issue, number 15 of my fan mail fanzine that I had been writing since 1986. So I did it for 6 years. And the last one was so popular, I had to have it professionally printed. And Debbie gave me the go ahead to print 500 copies. And I still have a few left, not many, but some. So that was a great time for me personally. I have a lot of really great memories from that.
All right, so here's the album cover, if you can see it. Mine, of course, it has the cutout in it because I got it from the cutout bin. What do you guys think of this album cover? I mean, first we had Cuckoo, then we had Rockbird, we had the Deaf, Dumb, and Blonde, and then here we are with Deprivation.
I wasn't crazy about the album cover the first time I saw it. I thought it kind of diminished just a lot of her beauty and everything, and I felt like her face was almost blurred and kind of masked in a way. They were working with that was done by a really great photographer. I think his name was Dean Chamberlain. He did that Arcadia video, All She Wants or something. Yeah, and this was the photographer. And he does that time lapse kind of thing where you kind of get like these interesting images and stuff, and it works really well with light and stuff going through it. So I kind of thought it probably sounded really good on paper, but I just really feel like in that process, it just kind of blurred like all of her beauty, and everything that makes a great album cover by her. I actually kind of like the flip side cover of her laying on the bed on top of the chair. Yeah, I actually think that's more interesting, even though you can't see her. But I was kind of disappointed with the album cover. I don't even really, I could barely even see like Debbie in there. So that was my opinion of it.
When I was listening to the album in my car, I've been listening to it all week, I always feel like protective of it. Like, I'm like, we're not even going to do the thumbs up or thumbs down because I feel like this album's taken a beating enough. Look at my CD case. Like, even my CD case is totally cracked and broken. Poor Deprivation. Justice for Deborah. Now, before we go into the track by track.
Justice for Deborah.
Justice. But I mean, I don't know how much justice. But now, before we go into the track by track, Chris and Debbie, from the interviews and from the vibe, I don't think it was even their favorite album. So it shows they were selling this director's cut through our friend Barry here. And as we go through the track by track, Barry, I would love if you told us kind of the differences between the officially released version than the one on here, if there are any differences. Do you want to say anything about this version before we jump into the album?
Yeah, sure. I'll talk about it. I think the statute of limitations has run.
Okay.
So yeah, what happened there was that Chris and Debbie wanted their original version, which is kind of a more raw sound, more rock oriented, and the record company was having nothing to do with that. And they wanted that put out, and the record company made Debbie go back and add some different tracks and redo some of the tracks. So they wanted something more commercial. And Chris was talking to me once during one of my visits and explaining how that they wanted this out. And I said, well, I'll put it out. And I'm like, okay, I'll do it. And Chris is like, yeah, we'll do it. And he said, the funniest thing he said, if you get caught or get in trouble, we're going to deny it.
Oh,
And I agreed to those terms, and I actually arranged for the manufacture of that disc. We made 1,000 copies, and Chris came up with the idea for the cover, the artwork, which is a very simple package. That was the whole idea behind it. I did on the computer because I was a computer expert. Let me show you a copy of it. So these are the inlay cards, I call them. And on the front, you just have basically the title. This was entirely Chris's idea. And
So-
it's on a textured paper.
Barry, what does the 8.5 mean, or do I not want to know?
I think it was the album number. I think it was like a half an album because it wasn't officially released.
Okay.
And it's also a nod to the film that Chris was a fan of. And in fact, the first track on the producer's cut is called 8.5 Rumba, written by Nino Rota.
Wasn't that a film for like the French New Wave and cinema? I think. Yeah. So
Okay.
Yeah,
Chris was big on that.
I think so.
Fellini, right? Fellini.
Yes, I think so.
Okay.
It's called Fellini's 8.5.
Yeah, so anyway, I printed these inlay cards up in Mechanicsburg, and it was interesting that the album, the producer's cut, was supposed to come out in 1993 in England because I had arranged to have it manufactured there. I took the master tape with me, which was on a DAT. DAT tapes are these digital tapes that are CD quality. They're very small.
Mhm.
This is an example of one. So they're just these little tiny things. And that's what the master was. I remember Chris wanted to resequence it a little bit. So he had a DAT tape. It's all digital, and I used his he had two DAT recorders up there in his studio in the basement of his loft on Greenwich Street. And I resequenced it for him, and I inserted Black Dog at his request into the middle of it. And that was the master, and I took it with me to England, and I paid someone who I had known for a long time, who I thought was a good friend, and I gave him the $900 deposit to have it manufactured, and he basically stole it. And he was fanzine and erasing he whited out my name and address and all the contributors' names on there, and he printed it up as if it was his own fanzine, and he was selling it, and he basically stole all of that money, and I had to pay for it again when I got back to the United States and have it, manufactured in the U.S. It was manufactured in Phoenixville, Pennsylvania, in the spring of 1994. And when I printed up these inlay cards, I wasn't a very good typesetter at the time, so I'm going to show you this. There was actually there's sort of two slightly different versions of the CD. Because the originals, which if you look on line 1 of this at the end, Pete Min's name is split across the line on the first line where his name is split across. And that shouldn't have happened. I should have fixed that back then. But like I said, I was inexperienced. The PCs were very new at the time. That's how you can tell that that's an original. And what happened was I had 500 copies of this inlay card. And when my grandfather, who lived next door to me during my childhood, I grew up with my grandparents like in walking distance. When they passed away, I lost the inlay cards. And for 15 years or something, they were lost. I finally found them, so I have the originals now. But there was so much interest from fans who wanted the CDs, and I had the CDs. I just couldn't find the inlay cards. And I had about 150 of them printed. I don't remember what year it was. Might have been 2006 6 or 5, I don't know. But if you see, this is the inlay card to the other one. I had to redo the artwork. You see how his Pete Min's name is on line 2.
Oh, Barry, I've got the original.
Yes, and I sold those at shows in the spring of 1994, and I'm sure that's where you got it if you bought it at the show. And yeah, that's basically what happened. And it took a long time to recover my manufacturing costs from the sales of them. I sold them for $20, I think, or $18 back then. And since I got 900 pounds stolen from Chris and Debbie, took a long time to recover that money. But the CDs themselves, this was Chris's idea, that it would have a very plain front. In fact, he wanted them blank. But as you see on the CD, the only thing you have is the catalog number and the compact disc symbol.
Right.
That was required by the manufacturing facility. They would not print it with a blank front, and it was kind of my idea. And the catalog
Barry, that catalog number, Barry, starts with the time length of Call Me.
Yes, it does. And the other interesting thing about the catalog number is it's supposed to spell Debbie on the telephone keypad, but I made an error.
Oh.
And the last digit is wrong, and I have no idea how I did that. It's like an embarrassment I've had to live with, for 30 years. And anyway, it almost spells Debbie on the telephone keypad.
So it's kind of like
that's the story of the producer's cut, and the reprinted ones was a short run done with new artwork because the printers couldn't read the files, and in fact, I still haven't been able to completely reconstruct the artwork for the inlay cards and the tray card because it was done in WordPerfect 5.1 on a DOS computer on my PC, and the master is a CDR. I looked for it, I couldn't find it, but I did find the receipt for it. The printing and the master, and I have it here somewhere. I just don't know where it is. I wish I could have shown it. But that's the story of the producer's cut.
Cool. Now, does anybody else on the podcast have the producer's cut?
I do.
Okay.
Yeah, it's a very interesting album. I think there were the first song on it, 8.5 Rumba, that was a B-side. It was only released as a B-side on one of the CD singles. And the last track, On a Breath, which was written by Lee Fox, same deal, again a B-side on one of the CD singles in England. And there's an extra track that wasn't released anywhere else called The Date. It's a campy rap track written by Debbie and Chris. It's interesting. There's different versions of a few of the songs. A couple of them are identical. I think Dog Star Girl was identical, and I think The Fugitive was identical. Dancing Down the Moon, I think, was a slightly different version. Stability might also be the same one. I can't remember.
It's different.
I'll have to look. And Standing in My Way was a duet with Joey Ramone. In the one that is on here, not on the one on the commercial album. And Rain, I think, was a different mix. I wish I could remember. I tried to find some notes for this, but I kind of ran out of time looking for it. But yeah, it was Mood Ring.
Craig says it's a demo. I listened to it earlier today it's on YouTube, I think.
Okay.
This 8.5 Rumba producer's cut. According to the notes on YouTube, Rain is a demo. Dancing Down the Moon is a demo. Black Dog is live. Mood Ring is a demo. The Date is just unreleased.
I wouldn't really call them demos. They were just slightly earlier, like more raw versions, less production.
Yeah. I like them better. The drums aren't so overpowering.
So before we go into the track by track, for those that are familiar with the producer's cut, do you think the album would have been more successful had they gone in the direction that Debbie and Chris wanted, or do you think the way pop culture was at the time, it wouldn't have mattered what was released?
I think it would have done better because it would have sounded more rock. And I think people always want rock from Debbie more than they want dance. I could be wrong. But I think that whole 80s overproduction thing was starting to recede. And people were starting to want edgy, garagey stuff again. In no small part because of grunge. So
I think that was really Chris's thoughts on the matter. Yeah, I think I agree with you.
yeah.
Well, think of like 1992. Everyone had a Ramones shirt still. Like the Ramones were always still cool. So I feel like there was a way to maintain through that era. Now, luckily, we all know history. Only a few years passed. Isn't it weird thinking of Debbie Harry 93 and 97? Like, it's just two whole different universes, and only a few years separate those. But I just think of her on stage singing Maria with so much confidence and power and force. And then you have, you know, Debravation sitting in the discount bin for $1.99. So
Yeah. And her persona is so different from one to the other.
right. I think it was hard for a lot of people at this time that were on top of the world at one point and then still trying to create art. So, all right. Any thoughts on the album in general before we jump into a track by track discussion?
Let's jump.
All right. Here we go. Here's the CD singles. I have 1, 2, 3 different versions. I can see clearly. You can tell that Debbie was kind of going for that 1993, a little bit of the Manchester, the dance, the England sound. She did attempt. She attempted it. I kind of like this song though. What do you guys think of I Can See Clearly?
I think that they totally succeeded at what they were aiming for with this one. I mean, I think it's like dance pop perfection.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, it's very lightweight. I mean, it's nothing of any substance, but you know, it's a fun little dance track. I love her lower register that she shows off, and you know, the breathy vocals.
Yeah.
In 2015, I had someone I cared about very much pass away, but I just remember I always got that part in my head. I want to go back. That's my favorite. That's my favorite. This is probably my favorite song on the album. I feel like it's set out it did what it set out to do. Did it chart anywhere?
I think I read in the UK it did. Like it went to like number 24 or something like that.
I would wonder about the dance chart.
Because I was a gay club like ho at that time, and I don't ever remember this being played at all.
A gay club ho?
I was out 7 nights a week. And some of those 80s bands did have songs that were being played, like Who Was the Desert Miss the Rain? Everything But the Girl. I mean, they were kind of a little bit older.
Yeah.
Simply Red had Fairgrounds, which was played at the gay clubs all the time. Aretha, Deeper Love. But I don't ever remember I Can See Clearly being played at the clubs. Do you guys?
I do. Yeah, I heard it a lot at the clubs in New York.
Really?
Yeah, yeah. And even years later, you would find that mix in every once in a while, and it played well. It, like Jimmy said, I think it really set out. You know, it accomplished what it set out to do. So I think it was. Yeah, I thought it was very successful. It's one of those songs now. I listen to music a little differently than I did back then, where I would listen to the whole song, and now I try to pick apart songs. And this is one of those songs that I would really love to get like the threads to and just listen.
Okay, the stems.
The stems rather. Yeah, and like the guitar in it's like kind of interesting. That I'm like, oh, I like that.
Yeah.
And like really hear it like when you're listening to the whole thing. So there's really great elements to it, and I will double in on I love that was like kind of like the first time we were really starting to get like her huskier voice in a pop song, and that was kind of new, and that was kind of exciting too. So I'm really fond of this song.
Yeah, I like the verses and I like the who.
Yeah, that's
But
very.
I'm like not crazy about, the I can see clearly. I can't sing, but it's a great song, except I wish the chorus was a little better, but yeah, I love it. I love it. And
Yeah,
like what you
like the
were saying,
verses
the
are
pitchy
the
voice.
chorus.
Yeah. Yeah.
There's a single mix of it where I believe Debbie's voice is overdubbed, so you're not just hearing single Debbie, you're hearing like double Debbie, or maybe even a little bit more. The guitar is brought out a little bit more
Okay.
I love a
in the
double
single mix
Debbie.
of it. And
Yeah.
and
Is it the single
Mark,
version?
yeah, you do hear more of the different parts in that one, which I like that one a lot better than the album version.
At this time, like I was still buying all the music from my favorites, even if they weren't as successful anymore. Like I feel like the Thompson Twins were still finishing out their albums before they became Babel, and I was buying all that stuff. But I called at the time. I called Deprivation my I Can See Clearly CD single with like 12 bonus tracks, because this is the only song I ever listened to on the album at the time, and I did like it. It was in my repertoire. Any other thoughts on this one? Well, did we all give this one a thumbs up?
Yeah.
Yeah, definitely.
Do we give it a whoo hoo hoo hoo?
I just looked. It did go to number 2 on the dance chart.
Oh, good.
Oh,
They got number
Whoa,
2.
go Debbie.
Looked it up.
Maybe it was just in Buffalo they didn't play. They didn't play it. All right, moving on. Deprivation. What's the next song? Sanity.
Stability.
Stability. All right, Stability. This is kind of campy, fun, Debbie. Kind of a 1993. I feel like a Die Young, Stay Pretty for 1993. There's a little bit of a rap in there. Jimmy, you're shaking your head.
no, I mean, I listened to it and I just kept thinking, why don't I like this song? That was my thought throughout listening to it, is like, why don't I like this? I think it's too bubblegum or something, and it goes on so long. It's too long of a song to endure that much of that.
I think it's
So-
too sing-songy.
Yeah, it's just too bubblegummy and just
We like
it
we
didn't
like-
land with me.
we like Debbie being sassy, chomping on the gum, not being bubble gum, right?
Right.
It was funny because when I was listening to it, and I was noticed, and I've said like she kind of sometimes will approach her songs like an actor does, and she does things to her voice like an actor will change it. And in agreeing with that sing-songy kind of voice, I think it's one of the few times that you kind of hear her playing like the character of like a ditz. Somebody who's kind of like, must I take pills for stability? And she's, kind of like a little loopy, and it's not really the Debbie that we're used to. We're kind of used to one way or another, or a very strong fierce woman. And this character in this song is kind of an airhead, in a way. And so I think that's what kind of makes it off-putting. But for the life of I just get a kick out of this song. It just tickles me. I think it's so funny. And I don't know, maybe it's the you don't have to hubby love me, you don't have to chubby shove me line. I don't know, but I just think it's hysterical.
I feel like it could have been used on the Anna Nicole show.
Yeah, right?
Yeah.
I do like the producer's cut better of this track than I do the one that was on the album.
Yeah.
Oh,
I do too.
I think she's Deborah-licious in it. I like it. I like the cha-cha-cha, you love to dance. And then I also like, when she comes back at the end with the don't you know the leash law sitting on a seesaw. I actually really like it. Like if we were to put a compilation of Blondie, Debbie Harry rap, songs with rap, I would put it on it. I like it. Nobody.
I have a note in my fanzine that says that Rolling Stone had a little blurb of some sort saying that Stability was supposed to be the second single in the United States. I don't know if it actually was, but I have a note about that. The note about I Can See Clearly was that it was number 2 on the dance chart in November 2nd, I think, of 93.
All right. Any other thoughts on? Oh hell, let's do the thumbs up and thumbs down. Let's have a little fun. Oh, I'll do the sideways. I'll do the sideways. Oh shit. Okay, next. The video was banned from MTV because someone die in a water tank or something, and Debbie's.
Yeah, it's fantastic video.
She does look hot in the video. The
She
song's
does.
very atmospheric. It's very, like, moody. Strike Me Pink.
Very lush.
Very lush.
Lush with the sultry vocals. I mean, I really love the song. I love everything about it. And I feel like the lyrics are sexy as well. Yeah, I think this one really hit, it's totally different than I Can See Clearly. Total different sound. But I think this track is really strong. And I think it really hints at her jazz work that's to come.
Yeah, I agree with that.
I have a
I
question.
would have.
Oh,
Scott.
I noticed in the lyrics she says, "My name is Angel," and Angel was her character's name in that animated movie Rock and Rule, also known as Drats. So I was wondering if it was possible that this might have been a song that she wrote for that film, that maybe they just didn't use it, or maybe it's just a coincidence that she reuses the name Angel. Does anybody know? Nobody?
Wasn't that a title of the band at one time? Angel and the Snakes or something like that?
Right.
It could be a throwback to that, or it
Snake
could be a
singular.
song that that they just didn't use for that movie. I'd be curious to know if it means anything.
All right, Jim.
According to this, it looks like Ian Dudley and Jonathan Bernstein are also co-writers in this song. So I don't know if that may have been an idea for that movie, but obviously when it came out in this album, it had some rework, done.
I
I think Ian
suspect that it
Dudley
was
has
not.
done some writing for Pet Shop Boys too, I believe.
Okay.
Yeah, I don't think that it was for the movie. It might have been a name check or something like that, but that movie was from 1981, and I think they did the tracks with Cheap Trick. Wasn't that the one that they did with Robin Sander? And
Yeah.
and they did it basically by mail, if I remember right. That they didn't actually meet and work on that. I
They just
don't
did it.
remember Chris or anybody saying anything to me, at least at that time, about it being from that or related to that. But what was really great about that song is that they did 2 CD singles in England were put out, and they had B-sides on them.
Uh-huh.
They did I Can See Clearly and Strike Me Pink were both released as 2 different CD singles in England at the time.
Yep.
And were the B-sides to the single the ones that were ended up on the director's cut?
I think that's where they were from.
Okay.
If I remember correctly. I wasn't able to find them, but I have them here somewhere.
Okay. Any other thoughts on Strike Me Pink?
Well, I would have to say this is probably one of my favorite songs from this album, but it seems like I feel like some of her stronger work are these slower, more ballady type songs. I would have loved, maybe it'll happen, I don't know, but I would have loved to see her make an album with songs like this and Prelude to a Kiss and
Brightside.
And Brightside, and you just have Free to Fall. I mean, there's just to me, it's kind of a wheelhouse that she's never really explored.
Yeah.
It would have been nice to see that, even with maybe some kind of orchestrated background. I mean, Prelude to a Kiss, I don't know if you guys have heard that, probably so, is a fantastic song that she did for that movie. And I just really feel like the boat's been missed on that.
And wouldn't you even say that goes back to some of the moodiness of like way back even to Shayla? like just kind of,
Yes.
like really atmospheric, and she really like she does that so well.
Mm-hmm.
So, is this 1 in the pink or 2 in the stink for this song? I give it thumbs up.
I give it thumbs up.
All right, next. Man, I remember looking at the track list of this because Erotica was out at the time, so I'm like, oh no, Debbie, you didn't have a song called Rain on there. Because Madonna's Rain was so iconic to me at the time. But Debbie's Rain kind of, once again, has that kind of 1993 drum beat with some of the guitars. Someone else start this one off. Rain, Debbie, what do you guys think?
Hit it, boy.
Okay, I'll go. I think she gets into it. I like it. And that's about it, actually. I don't hate it.
See, I felt like her overdubs at the end were kind of mixed too high and kind of jarring. I'm like,
I remember
the
liking him when he
director's-
performed it at the shows.
it would be kind of cool to
The
hear.
director's cut. I think the director's cut version of it is better than the album version.
I agree.
And how's it different?
If I'm remembering.
Is it more rock, maybe?
it's more
Yeah, it
rock.
doesn't seem so produced.
And less produced. Yeah.
Yeah, less produced. Yeah.
I like her weird vocal delivery on this. It kind of sounds like she's jogging or like somebody who's singing while they're running.
Yeah, it sounds very
and out of
desperate.
breath.
Yeah, the vocals sound desperate.
Urgency.
Almost.
Well,
Right.
the label was desperate for a hit, so maybe.
Well, it won't be this. It won't be this song though.
Uh,
I remember I liked the guitar in it.
Yeah.
Yeah, a guitar solo. I did write that down as a note because that's going to be a theme, I think, throughout. Another guitar solo. But I think overall, this is a forgettable song. I mean, it's like it plays, and the instant it stopped playing, it just escapes your consciousness, like you never heard it. It
Well-
just doesn't stick. It just doesn't stick with me for some reason. It's just
There's some songs
while it's playing, it's okay, but then it's gone.
Jimmy, wouldn't you agree that there's some songs that Debbie sings that not anyone else in this whole world can sing it? Because that, it's a Debbie Harry song. I feel like Rain, like you can just pass that around the campfire. Like, and I feel like that's not a song that, it's just kind of a little generic.
Yeah. Yes, generic's a good word. Yeah.
Not bad, generic. It's palatable. It's
Mm-hmm.
a lot of songs on this album I feel like are like that background music in the movie that is kind of on TV on like Thursday night at 2 a.m.
There is something generic about a lot of it, I think.
Oh,
The one thing I really can't stand about it is the sleep machine sound of the rain in the very beginning. It sounds like someone's bad, like Anya new age music. And I'm like, what, and I'm like, what is that about? So and it just, for me, it gets worse after that. It's very generic.
and Debbie, if you're watching this, we fucking love you. Just don't take it she doesn't take it personally. She did a director's cut.
And she does do some good vocal acrobatics in the song. Like sometime, but she's trying.
She tried.
It's not like she's. I mean, a lot of these vocals are lazy. I won't say it on this album. But this is not a song where she sounds like she's phoning it in. It's just that the songwriting is not that great. So she's limited to
better.
material.
Yeah, she sounds better on the director's cut vocally of this song than she does on the album version.
Yeah.
Right.
But she's giving it her all. It's just, the song is limiting, I think.
Well, Rain from Deprivation, thumbs up, sideways, or down? I give it the sideways. I don't skip it, but I don't think it's gonna change the world.
Change the station, maybe.
All right, Communion. Now, I'm sorry I keep bringing up my girl Madonna, but I just feel like
Well, you have to with this song.
the religious metaphor for sex had been done so well with Like a Prayer that I just feel like it was a little
Sloppy seconds.
Yes, and I'm no stranger to sloppy seconds, my friends. But the chorus of this reminded me of, isn't there a Dead or Alive song that kind of has this kind of feel? Like, do, or am I imagining things? I'm not a huge fan, but no? All right.
I think I don't hear it.
Take my body. Drink. Eat.
Well, yeah, it's taken from the Catholic Church, and that whole, the act of communion, and so but I felt it was a very clumsy attempt at it, and once again, the New Age intro into the song, with the New Age synths into
that
it,
magical,
and I was like, oh, okay, whimsical creatures,
but then the piano.
melody.
Oh,
The piano, it could have been a great house track.
Yes,
If they had just
exactly.
stuck with that piano and just delivered it as a house music track, it might have really been something.
and I must say in this podcast, I'll say this to the Phonogenics listeners, I am in complete shock. Because when we were like in the darkest, deepest corners of the Hunter, Mark would be like, I love that song. And like, we can't even get you on board with Depravation. All right. Any other thoughts on communion?
Can I add one more thing? I know she performed this at Wigstock, the first Wigstock that she was at. And I can remember the people around me thought she was serious. And they thought, like, has she found God? Has she found religion? And it went over like a lead balloon. It did not go over well.
Is there any Nina Hagen fans here? She had that album Personal Jesus when she went religious. But anyway, communion. Do we give it blood, water, or body?
That was one of my least favorite songs on the album. It was very boring when they performed it. I thought, I don't like it at all.
You guys are killing me.
Yeah, I don't know. I would probably give it thumbs up. On this album, of the tracks that we have to select from,
Yeah.
I think that I would give this one a thumbs up in comparison to some of the other ones that we're going to get to maybe next.
You're grading on a sliding scale.
There's a curve.
See, my heart hurts because this is like a year or 3 of Debbie Harry's life. Okay. Oh, goodness. Lip service. Tony C. produced I Want That Man. I fucking love that. That great song, right? Was Tony C. Feel the Spin?
Feel the Spin and Sweet and Low.
Sweet and Low.
Yeah, Sweet and Low is what Tony C. And I Want You.
I Want You. That's what I meant to say. I Want You. So, I love I Want You. It's fucking batshit fucking crazy. But I love it. Opening track of Rockbird. But here we are. Lip service.
It's a waste of a good song title.
Yeah.
Especially with her lips.
She has good lips.
Yeah, but they wasted a great song title with this track because there's nothing. I mean, I instantly thought, oh, am I back to her Rockbird album? Only in a bad way with the toy piano and the cheap sax. No,
Yeah, I don't like the music.
Another of
you
my
know
least
what it sounds like?
favorites, too.
Sounds like video game music to me.
yes,
Somebody's singing
an
along with a video
arcade.
game.
Yeah, maybe it would play well in an arcade or something.
Now,
Like that, yeah.
do we have any Bananarama fans here?
Yeah.
Because wasn't this around the era when they did the Please Yourself album when it was just the two of them? Was that the same kind of era?
I don't know.
No, we don't know. See, that was so unpopular that no one even knows when it came out. But I feel like that was also kind of like generic house music after a run of really good albums. And this was just a hard time for our ladies and our friends here. Lip service. Now, I loved Go Sit Down, though. Like, I was dying on that mountain. But I just can't get behind these ones, you guys.
No.
Lip service. Oh, even Jim gave it the thumbs down. Oh, girl.
Yeah, it's a thumbs down.
Sorry.
It might be the worst song on the album.
Nobody likes
I agree.
Nobody likes the rap.
And that's
phrase,
saying
but the
saying
Raven.
something.
Yeah.
Let's not even talk about. In Debbie Harry's top 5 worst songs, this might be in there for me. I hate to say
Yeah.
it. Sorry, Debbie. Sorry. I would get on my knees and take communion before I'd engage in some lip sync.
Absolutely.
Oh Lord.
Oh,
All right, Mood Ring. We're a little moody. We are continuing on with the album.
I like that one. I think Debbie
Yeah.
sounds really good in it.
Yeah.
The vocal arrangement's really good. It's a better sax solo.
Better
It's
sex.
actually, if you're going to have a sax solo, they do it much better in Mood Ring. I think the production is really nice. It doesn't really have a hook for me, there's not a memorable hook to it in my mind, but I just think it's a pleasant song and pleasant to listen to.
Yep.
Okay, any other thoughts on Mood Ring?
Yeah, I think it has a really nice vocal from her. It has a very nice, relaxed, controlled vocal. When she relaxes into that sweet spot in her voice, it's really quite lovely, and I think she does that here. I also think that the production is quite nice, and if you listen to the parts of it, it does definitely have like that kind of smooth, jazzy kind of feel that was kind of indicative of the early '90s and
Yeah.
stuff. But that has like that great like boom 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 bass line to it,
Yeah.
and it's all the pieces are really quite
But
nice.
there,
Yeah, they're
Yeah,
there. So,
I wonder if they had pushed this to like what is it, soft rock or the adult contemporary.
The AOR.
Yeah, if this had been pushed in that direction, I wonder if it might have gotten some play.
A lot of songs on this album suffer from weak choruses, I feel like. Like the verses are pretty, and then the chorus is changes of reason, changes of season. Like, what a bad chorus. Like for such a pretty song, like you say, it doesn't stick in your head. It's not, if only it was a little bit catchier.
Yeah,
It is a
it doesn't
pretty,
have a hook.
and she sings it so well. It just needs
Beautiful.
like a little stronger hook.
Nary a hook to be found on this album. Okay. Mood Ring. I'll give it a thumbs up. Seeing what it's surrounded by.
Yeah.
I mean, it's kind of like if this was on like Deaf, Dumb, and Blonde. Well, moving on.
Yeah, you're right.
Okay. Dancing Down the Moon. Now, I worked at Busch Gardens for 15 years, and there's like this house music they play over the fucking speaker in the Jungala section of the park. And is this a song that kind of has that Jungala kind of Busch Gardens-y African theme park kind of feel? Am I remembering right?
when I listen to it, I hear
There
Weird
was a few-
Science by Oingo Boingo.
Oh,
Yeah.
that's
It
generous.
has that dun, 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 woo, and I always think of Weird Science. Woo, and it always makes me think of Weird Science.
Now- What other language is she singing in towards the end?
Is she doing a?
That's in Keep On
Yeah.
Going, doesn't she?
Oh, I have the wrong song. Okay.
You're thinking of
that's
Keep
where I
On
was
Going.
really-
Oh, Keep On Going. I jumped ahead. Keep On Going is what we're talking about. That's the one that's Jungala, Busch Gardens,
Disney animation, yes.
Disney animation. We're at Busch Gardens. The people that all failed at being singers on American Idol are singing in the jukebox show.
The dancing crabs
Dancing
on the
crabs.
floor.
And
I think the one thing I would say though is her vocals are very precise with the way she delivers the lyrics in this song. It's like she sings it very distinctly and clearly. You can really hear her enunciate every part of the word, which sometimes that gets lost in the mix.
I felt like she was singing to herself like, Debbie, keep on going. You'll get through this album.
Yeah, if it weren't so uplifting, I might like it.
She is singing in a different language at the end here. What is that? Like,
Yes.
Spanish, isn't it?
oh, it's Spanish.
Yeah, I think
It
so.
was Spanish.
Oh, yeah, that's what I thought it was.
I mean, not to be a bitch, but when I was listening to the song, like, just when I didn't think it was, like, then came, like, I'm like, oh, no. Now we're in another language. We're still in Jungala at Busch Gardens.
There's something about I realize we jumped tracks and we're sort of talking about keep on going now, but there's something about like tropical Debbie that just never works for me. Maybe it's tropical anything never works for me. It's just it always sounds corny. I didn't like it on Island of Lost Souls. You know, I it just sounds corny to me. Sorry, Debbie.
No, this is. I mean, I think this one's giving lip service a run for the lip. Any other?
Darn optimistic. I'm just used to Debbie with, a spoonful of cynicism.
Right.
That's what I'm saying. It's hard for me to get behind something.
Cheerful. It almost sounded like she was. Yeah, it sounded like was she hired out to do a Disney vocal or something? Because you're cheerful. And I'm like I do think her performance. I mean, the way she achieves it. As I was listening to it again today, I was like, sometimes when she gets into her higher register, she can kind of, not quite get there. When and this song, she's right there. She just hits every note beautifully, and she does a fine performance. It's just so darn cheerful, though.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't do cheerful. I have a dark soul, my friend.
Well, maybe if it's ABBA or something, but it's not what you want from Debbie.
You see, I went to an ABBA tribute, and it was so like saccharine that I had to listen to Boys for Paley on the way home from Tori. I'm like, me and my friend were like, we need something to restore our souls. All right, Dancing Down the Moon. I'm sorry. Oh, no, I keep saying the wrong song. Keep on going.
Yeah.
I give it.
Oh, Jim!
I like it.
Jim's giving it the
I kind
thumbs
of
up.
like it.
Are we hurting your soul?
I kind of like it. Not as bad as you did on what was the other one? You guys were Communion. Holy moly! And
No pun intended.
see, I don't. Yeah, really. Keep on going. I mean, I don't have a problem with her doing some type of reggae-ish beat type song. I mean, look at Die Young, Stay Pretty. And, this song would run rings around Island of Lost Souls. Island of Lost Souls is probably one of the worst songs the band's ever written. It's just, I feel like they were trying to copy The Tide is High at the time because they were riding high on that from Auto American. But this one, except for the, overly cheerful lollipops and unicorns tone to it, I really like this song. I mean, it is kind of relaxing, and I love the little steel drum in the background of it. And wow, man, guys, you are killing me in some of these songs.
Well,
thumbs up.
at least we're all kind of on the same page because some of these songs are kind of killing me. So we're all experiencing a little death here in one way or another.
I'd rather have all of them than not.
Yeah, and
I agree with that.
music's totally subjective. Like, never take anything that anyone says too personally because if the song's in your heart, that's all that matters. And I mean that sincerely.
And there's a bright spot coming with the Standing in My Way.
Well, now let's do Dancing Down the Moon because I did skip ahead to that. What do you guys think of Dancing Down the Moon?
We just go ahead and vote.
Yeah.
The pieces should equal a better product. I think it's like the pieces are there, but the way it's put together does not really work as a memorable track for me.
I feel like this is like Return of the Living Dead Part 2. Like when there's like a scene when they're walking through the cemetery and like the music's like way in the background.
It either needs to be more rock, like way more rock, or it needs to be more dance or something. It's like it doesn't know what it is. And then there's another guitar solo.
Yeah, the vocals are weak on this one. The director's cut version vocals are much better than they are on the album version of the song.
Yeah. My notes say that sounds like she recorded it laying in a beanbag chair.
Debbie, we love you
Yawning
so
in
much.
between verses.
The Chrysalis record executive, like counting the studio time.
Yeah, she's over it.
Oh shit! Maria is only a few years away. Things are going to be okay. All right, Standing in My Way.
Love it.
Who doesn't like that song?
Well,
Great song. It's a great song.
I feel
Yeah.
like it's obvious, like they're throwing us a bone to everybody that wanted to remember, like, this is the lady that was Blondie,
yeah.
who we have not heard on this album yet. She has not reminded us once that this was Blondie, but now they're giving it to us. That's what I feel like this song was.
Now I'm just gonna say one negative thing, then we can return to your positivity. But I felt like this sounded like a third-rate person trying to make a song that sounded like Blondie.
Eh,
But,
maybe I'm just so grateful for it because
yeah, we're so.
it's in the middle of this, like, you know,
I mean, I think it could have used a little bit of a harder edge to it.
yeah.
You know, and I wouldn't have been unhappy with that.
I really
But-
like the one with Joey Ramone.
Is that
Yeah,
what-
the one
yeah.
with, that one is so much better.
I like
But I
them
like
both.
this song, it's
I like
it's
them
fun,
both too.
and it is a refresher on this album.
Yes.
I feel like this is a blessing and a curse, but the bar is set so high for me because Debbie Harry and Blondie have released some of the best songs of all time. So like, I think I have my Madonnas, and then my Debbie's, and then I have like other people I like that are kind of like the third tier. Like I think if like one of my third tier people release a song, I'd be like, I love it, but like this is fucking Debbie Harry, man.
Yeah.
Well, I do think it goes on a little too long, and when we get to the surf, but background vocals, I'm like, okay, we've kind of taken this all around the world now. Time to wrap it up.
You know what though? I'll give it a thumbs up. Like,
Oh, for sure.
yeah,
Oh, yeah,
Oh, yeah.
definitely thumbs up.
definitely thumbs up.
Too, actually. Mhm.
The Fugitive, written by Harry Stein, produced by Chris Stein. This is one of those weird, like, kind of reminded me of like when they wrote about some odd things on plastic letters. You know what I mean? Like,
That's what my notes say. It
Mine
reminds me
too.
of Plastic Letters era Blondie. The songwriting does, and it does sound a little retro Blondie. I think her vocals are fantastic in it.
Hmm.
Yeah.
I would agree with that for this one and the next one, which was also written by Stein. Actually, no, it was written by Stein, but not Harry.
yeah,
I like The Fugitive. I think I agree with everybody on here that it really is a bit of a throwback. Yet another bone, kind of like standing in my way, for us to kind of get through the remainder of the album. It's too bad they didn't put some of these earlier in the album to kind of clear the palette. But that wasn't meant to be, obviously.
Yeah, I always kind of felt that if the album kind of tried to present itself as these last three songs, this, Standing in My Way, this one, and the next one, I thought those were really great progressive sounding, songs. And had they had a full package of something like that, would have been really something that I would have been able to like really get behind. And this, and the album itself just kind of doing this dumpster diving of grabbing every kind of, musical genre that there is. It just kind of, sold itself short. And I really loved like these three songs together, and I think they're really great.
Yeah.
Jimmy, are you going to treat us to a resequence at the end?
Maybe.
Okay.
Oh.
It was yeah. We'll talk later.
So, any other thoughts on The Fugitive?
Yeah, I have to agree that there's a lot of diversity on this album, but you have to remember too that it wasn't their album as submitted. It's their album as submitted plus whatever the more commercial tracks were that they recorded at the behest of the record company.
Right.
And I did find a statement about that. I'll read it to you. This is from my fan mail fanzine in December of '93. I wrote an interview excerpt from Details in October 1993 reiterates this position, quoting, "Our intention was to make an album that was avant-garde and creepy and sort of threatening, but we were met with rejection from the record company. The big boys wanted something more refined and commercial. Basically, they thought it sucked. Chris said Dog Star Girl is essentially the same on the released album version as the one they wanted to put out, but that Rain, Mood Ring, and Dancing Down the Moon, just to name a few, were very different. That's what I wrote.
Interesting. And I do feel like an edgier, creepy, weird kind of album might have landed okay in 1993.
Yeah.
Yeah, I agree with that.
All right, well, Fugitive, I'll give it thumbs up.
Oh,
Yeah. All right.
Definitely.
Dog Star Girl. I feel like I'm already feeling like a kind of positive vibe towards this song.
oh, heck yeah.
Mark, do you want to start this one off?
Me, sure. I love Dog Star Girl. It sparked an interest in what was it, William Gibson, right? It's William Gibson who wrote the lyrics.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Which I tried to get into it, but I love it. I love like the crunchy churning kind of. It's a little unnerving, and I like when they make me uncomfortable and stuff. And this was, like I said, this was really, really, really good. It also kind of reminded me of a song she'd probably do a year or two later with the Heads called "No Talking, Just Head," where it kind of had like that kind of.
Oh yeah,
You remember that?
yeah, it
I
does.
I love that sound. I think that kind of crunchy, burning, churning, kind of almost machine-like sound to the song works really, really well for her voice. And I really like this one. I kind of wish the album just kind of ended on this, and then because in America we had those two bonus tracks, which kind of threw the whole thing even more in a loop. But I thought this would have been a great ending to the album.
It should have been the album's closing track.
Yeah,
Definitely.
And
But
it is on.
like, the instruments being played backwards.
I love that.
Part of it. There's so much cool stuff going on, and I like her coy vocals in the beginning of it. The drums and guitar, it has that real alternative feel.
Mhm.
I think this one is really a keeper for sure.
And it is the closing
totally
track
agree with
on. Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
I totally agree with that. I love Dog Star Girl. It's what they did it live at the shows at every show, I believe, and I just think it's one of the standout tracks on the album. And it's interesting that it's some sort of a collaboration between Chris and William Gibson. Chris really likes William Gibson, and he was one of the first recommendations that Chris gave to me for reading when we were first getting to know each other. And I read Neuromancer. It was an interesting book. It's hard for me to read quickly because I am so non-dyslexic that I have trouble with reading speed. But that's where it originated. And I also thought it was very interesting that they brought it back for there was at least one show relatively recently. I mean, not real recently, but not in the 90s. Like it was something that was brought back maybe in the late teens or early 2020s. I wish I could remember the date, but it did get resurrected as well. So obviously the band liked the track as well.
I remember when we saw Debbie perform at the Carlisle. That was in 2015, March of 2015, and they did do this song.
Oh yeah, that's right, they did.
I think.
That's what I was thinking of, though. I think they did it with Blondie Show, and I think they did it there.
I think she brought Matt. Was it? No. Did she bring Chris over with her?
Chris was
That
at
was her
some of those
instrumentals.
shows.
All right. Well, on the digital version of the album, this does end the album. So the bonus tracks, to get those, you had to actually buy the CD, in the United States version. So the first of the bonus, Dog Scarred Girl, are we all thumbs up?
Oh, definitely.
Okay, and is there anything else anyone wants to say about that song before we move on?
Yeah, I have a note here that Chris said that the Giger was involved in that. He created the solo in Dog Star Girl, and it was taken from. He said it was then taken from the tapes and constructed by Pete Mann, the guitarist, and Chris for inclusion on the album. Chris was very disappointed at the omission, particularly considering how all the proof copies that the band examined were correct. So I think Chris was talking about one of the commercial version that they, I guess, muted that solo or took it out. And Chris thought the Giger solo was very important to it. And I think he's credited on the producer's cut.
That's the cool thing about Blondie and, Clem, Debbie, and Chris is they are fans of music as much as they are musicians, which kind of goes back to what Scott, you were saying earlier. Like, they love the music they love as much as we love the music that they make. So they're cool as fuck. All right, let's get into these bonus tracks. I mean, anywhere else in the world is there a 2-hour discussion about deprivation? But I'm so thankful I met y'all that we've been able to do this. My last date with you, is that correct? This was a collaboration with REM, right?
Mm-hmm.
Who were huge at the time, still, weren't they? 93?
Oh, yeah.
Which REM album was out in 93? Was that Monster?
No, I think it was Automatic for the People, wasn't
Oh,
it?
Automatic for the People. Monster was later.
Yeah.
Well, the REM star power sure did not bring this to the top of the charts.
It sounds like it could have been used on the show Twin Peaks.
Yeah.
I mean, I like it, for what it is. I really like it.
Yeah, that's okay.
Yeah, I like it. I think the vocals nice and stuff. I mean, I guess the story was that it was left over from their sessions and they decided they weren't going to use it, but they had all the instrumentation and it was offered to her, do you want REM to be the musicians on this song? And she just went and she never met with them or anything. She just went in and put the vocal on top of what they had previously recorded.
Who wrote it?
It's an old song.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't recall. But I like it. I think her vocal's nice, She sounds like a classic, crooner, Connie Francis.
I feel like it's harmless. The song is harmless.
It is.
Yeah.
All
It's
right.
kind of soft, but it's nice.
Yeah.
All right.
I think wasn't there a 45-second pre-gap delay between the album
It is.
itself and then these two tracks?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's what they used to do in the 90s, like for the hidden track. Like let your CD, you didn't take the CD out, you just let it run.
Imagine your fate in this universe being a fucking bonus track on deprivation. Shit. All right, well, I give this thumbs up.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's fine.
What if they wouldn't have had Kate Pearson do Shiny Happy People and Debbie did it instead? Another universe. All right. Okay, as the host of Phonogenics, I will admit I did not make it to Teardrops, so I have nothing to say. I did not make it all the way to the end. I was one song away, and then my roommate started talking to me. Should I Phonogenics panel? Do I need to get off this podcast and go listen to Teardrops or no?
No.
David, I see you shaking your head. Anything you'd like to?
No. I mean, it's like a barbershop song, right? So it's sort of okay,
You've never heard Debbie like this
right?
in this environment.
It's a bit too whoppy.
Okay.
Yeah, very, very nostalgic.
So let's recap the album. We have some doo-wop barbershop, some Bad House, Busch Gardens Jungala, a little Caribbean, a little rap, REM, Chrysalis Records, Director's Cut, Manchester Dance, number 2 on the dance charts. Woo, deprivation. I need to go to the gym, you guys. I'm exhausted. I need some energy. Well, like I said, can you guys think of any other albums from like some of our favorites that just were hard in this era? I think it's Street Angel by Stevie Nicks. That's the one I'm thinking of. Deprivation by Debbie Harry. Like, I just think This is a hard
Sisters of
time.
Avalon by Cyndi Lauper.
Oh my God, that's such a good album. Now
Good
that
album.
that might be
I
my
love
favorite
it.
Cyndi Lauper album, but ooh, it did not get the recognition that it deserved. And what was the first single? You Don't Know? Was that it?
Right.
Yes,
Yeah.
you don't know.
I love that song. Oh,
too.
you know what? Cyndi Lauper, Phonogenics. We need to get her.
I'm there.
All right,
Me too.
Cyndi Lauper, Phonogenics. It's been decided right here. Sisters of Avalon needs a 2-hour discussion, and so does Shine and
Shine,
Bring You
yes.
to the Brink. I love those albums.
Half Full of Stars. Half Full of Stars is a good one too.
Can we skip At Last
Yes.
and the Body Acoustic? But anyway, we made it to the end of Depravation. It's time to rank Deborah Harry, Depravation. Scale of 1 to 10. Who dares break the ice?
Ooh.
I'll do it.
Okay,
I'm giving it a 6. I think it is her weakest offering as a solo artist. And
Yes.
I think, I can't remember who said this, it might have been Mark, about how they just kind of threw everything in the kitchen sink in there. It's like she was, imitating the singers that were trying to imitate her. And it was a total miss for me.
and like her interviews at the time, she just looked and sounded defeated, and I hated seeing one of my heroes feel that way because she's fucking Deborah Harry, man. All right, who would like to go next?
I'll go. Okay, so I did love the videos, the 2 videos. I did love that. I thought she looked great. And it is for me, like what Jim said, it's my least favorite. But it's above the Jazz Passengers for me. So I'm gonna give it a 7 because I love her so much. I would, I don't know. It's sad. It was sad. But it came into my life when, I needed something from her because it'd been, like what, like 4 years, so
But it's like what the hell happened between 1989 and 1993? Like so much pop culture went so fast.
Yeah.
All right, who dares to go next?
I'll go. I give it a 3.
Oh,
Because like you say, the bar is so high on Debbie. If let's not even use parallel lines. Let's just go from her solo stuff. If Deaf, Dumb and Blonde is a 9, then this can't be a 6. This, you know what I mean? Like for me at least, there's got to be a lot of space between this and Deaf, Dumb and Blonde, or even Rockbird.
Or even Cuckoo.
Or even Cuckoo. I'm giving it a 3, and I'm not sorry.
Okay, who's next?
I'll go
I'm
next.
unfriending you. Just kidding. I'm kidding.
I'll go next. This album reminds me. I used to have this friend, and she was a singer, but she also used to do voiceover work. And when you have voiceover, you would make a tape, and it would be all your different voices for selling different things. So sometimes you'd sound like a little baby, sometimes you sound like an old man, sometimes, and you sound like a sexy woman and everything. And I kind of equate this album with that, like trying to do a little bit of everything. And it kind of, but there was like, it sold the artist short in a way. And I felt like she was trying to please too many outside sources, and the art itself got lost. And this is coming from one of my favorite artists of all time. So it's really, really disheartening.
Who are your
It's just
others?
such a loss for me. There are gems in it. There are parts of it that I like. And there will be times when I'll say to myself, I have to listen to this album. But I would probably agree. I'll probably give it around a 6.
A 6. All right. Are Steph Barry going to dare?
I'll give it a 7 overall. Like, I don't think it's the best. I don't think it's the worst. I think it's better than Unnecessary Evil. But
See, I've only listened to the first song on that album, so I got to get caught up before the next podcast.
but it's Debbie Harry, so I'll give it a 7.
I
All right.
love Necessary Evil.
Yeah, and I'm hard pressed to put a number on it. I agree kind of with Mark and that there's a couple of good tracks on it, and I agree with Stephanie about the Unnecessary Evil. Yeah, it's hard for me to put a number on it, but I'm drawn to the producer's cut. Besides for my personal involvement in it, I think it's a more coherent, less of a conglomeration of disjoint material that really doesn't represent Debbie and Chris and what I feel is the like the essence of Blondie. It's just not there for me on this album, and I wouldn't know where to put it. I guess I don't know, 5 because it's Debbie Harry, but
Yeah.
I like the producer's cut better too.
All right. Well, Jim, I always save you for last, so let me give my rating. Did I miss anybody else? All right. So I do feel like Debbie's solo catalog might not be quite as iconic as the Blondie catalog. But on Cuckoo, like, I can listen to Chrome, and that is almost as good as any Blondie song. Rockbird, it's a guilty pleasure. I love French Kissing in the USA. Free to Fall. The little 80s cheese, but it checks the boxes for me. I love that song. Deaf, Dumb, and Blonde, I Want That Man. Bright Side, Sweet and Low. Great.
Maybe for sure.
Maybe for sure. Oh my God. Deprivation doesn't have anything on that level. Maybe I can see clearly nudges it a little bit, but there's not even like something that touches like the worst song on Cuckoo for this. So I'm going to go with, I think I give it 3 out of 10. And that's being generous. I just think it's probably, I will probably never listen to this album again in my life. I just did it for the podcast. I will never again do communion. I will not do the lip service, and I'm sure as fuck not gonna keep it going.
It's Debbie's fault that we're this tough on her.
I know you're
She's
so
that good.
good.
Yes.
Yeah, my main problem with it as an album is, it's like a patchwork quilt that the moths have gotten to. It's like the quality of the production is so different from song to song. It's one thing to have a different genre of music, but the quality of the production of like Strike Me Pink and Mood Ring, and then you put that up against, Dancing Down the Moon, the production value is so vastly different that it just doesn't work as an album at all, really. So, I mean, the fact that I absolutely love the video for Strike Me Pink gives it a 5. I mean, that will bring it up to a 5 for me because, on the shoulders of that alone. There's some good parts to it, but there's no cohesion, and it just feels like they just threw it together. I mean, literally threw it together.
Man, the album just sums up like that opening drum part of Keep It Going, like with the drum fills. I can just see like the dancers coming out at Busch Gardens.
yeah, it's funny. Chris said they recorded enough material for 2 albums, but I don't know.
Did they?
That's what he said. I wrote it down at the time, so it's contemporaneous information.
Was there enough that should have been one album? Jimmy, did you gift us with a receipt?
Well, I did reimagine the album, but I'm telling you, there was no way to make this sound really like to turn it into a great album. No receipt, but I did reimagine it, and I forced myself to use all available material. And actually, when I listened to it like this, it didn't really bother me quite as much. I would like to edit out some things. It starts with "I Can See Clearly," which is with the strongest track there.
Mm.
Then we go into "Communion," which I wish we could edit out that magical, mystical opening and open with the piano and house music. "Strike Me Pink," "Rain," "Dancing Down the Moon," "My Last Date with You," "On a Breath," which is the B-side, "Mood Ring," "Keep on Going," "Stability." I have to do the producer's cut for that one just because I can't stand the other one. "Teardrops," which I love following "Teardrops" up with "Stand in My Way" with Joey Ramone, "The Fugitive," and then "Dog Star Girl" as the closer. So that's the best I could do.
I just want to say out loud that I thank the universe or whoever's up there that I found people in my universe that I could sit and talk about fucking deprivation for 2 hours with. I love you all. We survived deprivation, and so did Debbie. I mean, think about what happened. And just a couple years later, Behind the Music came out, Maria came out, and then years of good music, Good Boys, Mother. You know, album after album that's good, and hopefully one more, because
Right.
you know we shall meet, of course, for the is it Necessary Evil or whatever that album's called. I will listen to it before the podcast, and then we will meet for a new Blondie album. But it was 1993, not the best time for Deborah Harry.
No.
Any closing remarks?
I do love "On a Breath." I think it's very soothing.
Oh, is that one of the B-sides?
Mhm.
Yeah. It's,
Okay.
Yeah, that's
and
one of the tracks on
the
producer's cut.
director's cut.
And
Harry,
Yeah,
I'm gonna email you because I think I want a copy for my car. If
Okay.
that's possible.
Yeah, I think that can be arranged.
Okay.
I thought one of the interesting things about this album, and I think I've made this comment before on some of the other ones, that how it is that some people absolutely love a track that I almost can't stand, and vice versa. It's just funny the diversity of what people think. Where some people's like, that's my absolute favorite track on the album, and I'm like, or some other people, you know, are like, ugh.
I know what you mean. I mean, but I allow other people to be wrong. So
Taste vary. Now, really quick, Mark, I feel like someone asked you, who are some of your favorite other artists? Because you mentioned that in your rating.
Oh, and my some of my other favorite artists. I am a huge Stevie Nicks fan.
Oh, okay.
You mentioned Cindy. I love Cindy. Big Kate Bush fan. Tori Amos.
I want to do a Tory series. There's a Tory series
good.
in my
Early
pocket.
Tori, I'm a big fan of. I know a few people who would love that. Bowie, and then I go for more classic like Bowie. I really love like the Patti Smith.
Okay.
Like a lot of women.
What about Duran
yeah.
Duran?
I love Duran Duran.
So
Yeah.
will you be joining us for the podcast for the new Stevie album when she finishes it?
Oh, if you'd like, I'd love to.
Yeah,
I will too.
join the Stevie family. They're a bunch. They're a whole nother.
I've listened.
You listened? All right, wonderful. Well, friends, we will meet next month. Actually, I think next month is because we delayed a month because of Clem Burke. Rest in peace. But we will meet next month to talk about the most recent, hopefully not final, Deborah Harry solo album. Much love to you all. I will see you all in the chat, and thank you for this night. I needed this, and we gave Deprivation, we gave it its all, so it's now immortalized for the internet to see. And please, if you've watched this, comment your thoughts on the album, any Clem Burke stories, and we will see you all next month. Much love to you all. Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye, everybody.
Bye.
Good night.